is up, everyone? It is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. And so today is a very exciting video because we are doing another letter of continued interest advice video. I have a few other waitlist, deferral, letter of continued interest related videos on my channel, so I will have those linked down below. I definitely recommend watching those as well because they'll contain different information or tips from this video. If you're new to my channel, hello, my name is Rachel. I graduated from Berkeley in the class of 2020 where I double majored in cognitive science and legal studies. And now I'm currently working full-time at a law firm, and this past cycle I was an undergraduate external admissions reader with UC Berkeley. Speaking of, if you're a student looking for college application or letter of continued interest advice, definitely check out Study Hall College Consulting. It's a team of myself and other UC Berkeley graduates where we specialize in reviewing college application essays as well as consulting one-on-one with students and parents. So definitely check out our website for all of our tips and tricks. So let's get into this video. So the first thing that I would do before writing your letter of continued interest, you should definitely take some time to review the original application and materials that you sent in to the university. And this step may be sort of difficult because it's like, I don't want to reread my old essays, I don't want to look at it again kind of thing, but I highly recommend looking over your original application so you can sort of see maybe where your original application fell flat. You know, like I always say, a waitlist is better than a rejection. You still have a chance of getting into this university that might be your dream school, but also reviewing and reflecting on maybe why you were waitlisted versus accepted. So for example, maybe in your original application, your grades weren't where you wanted them to be in your sophomore and junior year, but then for your senior year thus far, because you'll have to send in those transcripts from your senior year up to now, that may be something you want to highlight. Your grades and GPA, maybe you raised them since the original application, maybe your grades and GPA was where your application was not as stellar in your original app. Or for example, maybe you reread your essays and you realize, oh, maybe these weren't the best essays, maybe I didn't put my best foot forward in these essays, maybe I didn't share enough about myself in my original application essays. Reflecting on that and those ideas can help you frame your letter of continued interest to figure out, okay, what information and items do I want to highlight in my letter? Because most times schools will have a word count or page limit for the letter, so you really don't have a lot of space to update the colleges on what you've been doing since the application time. So reviewing your application materials can be very helpful so you can see from the admissions reader's points of view, how did they view you, what materials did you submit, and how can that help you brainstorm and draft your loci. Next up, when writing your letter of continued interest, you really want to make sure that you're explaining and giving enough details. So it depends on the college, but I've read online that for a lot of colleges, they won't be reviewing your entire application again, but if you're waitlisted, they will just be reviewing your letter of continued interest and then looking at maybe the notes that the original readers wrote down or marked for your original application. That's something you want to keep in mind when writing your letter because you shouldn't just be listing like an acronym or something like that in your letter of continued interest without explaining that organization or club that you're a part of, because if the reviewer isn't looking at your original application, they will have no idea what you're talking about. So you want to explain and give details about all of the activities that you're updating them on, even if you've talked about them previously in your original application. Give a sentence description about what that activity is and your role and involvement involvement in that group. For example, say you've continued volunteering with an organization, and since the application, maybe you put on a big fundraiser event. So in your letter of continued interest, you don't want to just say, as mentioned in my original application, I'm a volunteer at X, and leave it at that. But you want to give a brief description of what that organization is. If you just give the title, sometimes a title of a group or organization doesn't really explain what that group is about. Word space is limited, like I said, so be short there. And then you want to go into your continued involvement in that group. With giving details, you don't want to just say, we put on this fundraiser event, but definitely delve into it. How much money did you raise? If you were in charge of a committee or team, what was your role in that team? Did you manage a budget? How much money was that budget? Did you have to email or call people to get donations or to even attend the event? Give some more details about your involvement rather than in your letter of continued interest, making it sound like a resume where you're like, I did A, B, C, admit me to your school. Another thing to emphasize in your letter of continued interest would be to emphasize your grades and the classes that you've taken, especially if the college major or program that you're applying to has a very, very competitive major, like majors in engineering or computer science. You really want to emphasize those higher level AP, IB, college level courses that you've taken. So like I mentioned, if you're applying to an engineering program, and typically engineering is very competitive to get into, you definitely want to emphasize that you've taken the hardest classes at your high school and you've also maintained a high GPA, you've gotten A's and B's in those courses, because taking those courses can help demonstrate your interest in engineering, computer science, STEM fields. So I feel like a lot of times in letters of continued interest that I've reviewed with study hall, students will literally write one sentence, oh, I've maintained a 4.0 GPA in all of my classes, but really delve into that. Give it a couple of sentences. What classes have you been taking? Are you taking all AP classes? 7 AP classes in 1 year? That is a lot of classes, and that's something that you should emphasize and let the reader know about. Have you taken classes in the field that you're applying into, like AP Calculus, AP Physics if you're doing engineering, or even for other fields like political science? Have you taken AP Government? Classes like that can help demonstrate your interest. Even in senior year, where other students might take an easier course load, you have challenged yourself and taken the hardest courses available while also maintaining good grades. So I definitely think that is not something to brush over in your letter of continued interest, but if grades and classes is something that you can talk about, I would definitely bring it up in your letter. And with all of these loci writing tips, I would definitely recommend to demonstrate your passions in your letter of continued interest. Passions could mean many, many different things. It could be a passion for a major that you're applying into. It could be a passion for the school that you're applying to. And usually when you're writing locais, you would make every loci a little bit different for each university that you're applying into. Make them special, not just copy and paste one university's loci for another, but spending time thinking about your passions. Maybe you're interested in student government and the university that you are writing the loci for has a super big student government organization on their campus. Maybe you tie your passion for student government into the university's student government, sort of thinking about the different groups, activities, classes that you might get involved in at the university based off of your passions at high school or community college, tying those together and making it a very, very digestible read for the reader. In your letter, there's no real reason to make your writing super flowery or have a ton of metaphors, but you can write it with plain English while also letting your voice and passions shine through. And finally, you want to be aware of your word count, page limit, and do not waste your precious space. In your letter, because they are so brief, you don't really need to waste a bunch of lines and words with a lengthy intro paragraph. Literally, you can have a thank you sentence at the beginning and then jump right into the meat of your paragraphs. You don't need to have an entire intro paragraph thanking them as well as talking about the deferral or waitlist or anything like that. Because everyone is in the same boat, you really want to get into the meat and potatoes of your loci where you're explaining all of your updates. Similarly, you don't really need an entire conclusion paragraph, but you can have 1 or 2 sentences wrapping up your entire letter. You don't need 4 or 5 sentences repeating the same information that you just talked about. Because space is so limited, you really want to be brief in your intro and conclusion and have your updates and new information be a huge part of your letter. With that also, you don't really want to repeat word for word information that is already located in your original application. So that means like copying exact essays that you've already submitted and then sticking that into your letter of continued interest. That's not really sharing any new information. So yeah, that is some more advice when writing your letter of continued interest. If you have any questions, definitely leave a comment down below and check out those other letter of continued interest videos. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked this video, give it a big thumbs up to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos from me. Thanks again, and I will see you all next time.